utilising this great. Hi guys, my name's Deb Marnie and I'm from Aussie Maille, and this is our chainmail tutorial channel. Hey guys, big hi, hello, welcome, really glad to see you here. Thanks for dropping by and spending part of your day with me. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial for a project from our Maille Club subscription box. Details down below if you're interested in checking out the subscription services that we offer. So today it's an earrings and bracelet set utilising the dragon scale weave. Alright guys, let's get into it. Okay, so here's a sample of the bracelet that we'll be making up today, our Tilted Dragons, which is basically little pieces of dragon scale woven in a diamond shape. So I've popped up here the ring sizes that I suggested for this particular bracelet, but basically any ring size that works for dragon scale will work for this bracelet. So whatever your favorite dragon scale sizes are, go with those. Okay, so to start this weave, we want to close or pre-close two of our small rings. So go ahead and close those up right now. And then once you've got those two rings closed, we want to take up one of our large rings. Okay, open it up and pop those two rings onto there. Close your large ring up. And then we want to double that large ring. So we do that just by taking up another one of the same size and feeding it through the small rings, closing it up. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to position our rings in such a way that the small rings sit one on each side of the large rings. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create a couple of orbiting rings, like you would with helm weave. So if you're used to helm weave, you know the next step. If you're not, what we want to do is we want to take up another large ring and we want to feed it between these two rings here. So we're not going through these rings in any way. We're actually going to just sliding in between them. Okay, so to do that, we just go in between the rings there till we pop out the other side, and then we close that ring up. Now this is called an orbiting ring because it just simply goes around the outside of that small ring there. It doesn't actually physically go through the middle of any of the rings. So once you've created one around that small ring, we want to create another one around the other small ring. So we do exactly the same thing. Just feed a large ring in between our two large rings that are already in the weave, straight out the other side, and then close it all up. Okay, so then we've got what basically looks like sort of like a small piece of helm. Helm would have double small rings, but similar to a small piece of helm. And what I'm going to do now is we need to give this a little push, the top part a little push upwards, so that we separate out our two large middle rings. And I'm going to take a twist tie now. I'm going to feed it through this ring at the bottom. So not only does this give me a handle to hold on to, it also indicates where the start of my weave is. And I also know that the ring that I'm hanging on to sits on the bottom or the back side of my weave. So I find it quite helpful to do this. If you don't, by all means don't bother, but I like to give myself as many indicators to make it as easy as possible. Alright, so we've got this far with our weave. Now we need to finish putting together these first couple of rows ready to continue on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in a small ring row in, and I need to put that in. I need to go through and pick up these two previous rings. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to go straight in here, pick up that ring there, come around and pick up the other small ring, okay, just like that, or the other large ring I should say, and then I'm going to close that up. Okay, now I want this to actually be nestled inside this ring down here, so if I turn this around the back, you can see that it's not nestled inside, it's actually sitting on top of that ring. If you find that's the case, I actually like to position my pliers like this and then give it a little bit of downward pressure. It's a little bit tricky when it's just so new in the weave. So move my pliers like this and it sort of pops that ring into place. So now you can see that it's nestled inside that big ring. Okay, so this is what we look like so far. And I want to finish this row of small rings off by adding a small ring here and a small ring here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to place one there and one on the other side of our piece. Okay, so this is what our work currently looks like. And to finish off what is basically our first couple of starting rows, I now want to finish this row here that we started with this large ring. And to do that, I'm going to put a large ring through, not the small rings we just placed, but the small rings that we placed originally. So when you place your large rings go through your small rings and your small rings go through your large rings. And when you place your large rings, you don't place it into the row that you just put the small rings, the small rings row you just created. You put it into the row previous to that. So I'm going to be wanting to put my next large rings into these first two rings here. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to simply pick up that ring there, close it up, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just go through that original small ring and close it up. Okay, so this is basically what I consider the starting piece. We're all ready now to move on. So you can see that all our large rings are encircling our small rings. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place some small rings. And when you place the small rings, you put them into the most recent row of large rings. So that is this row here that's on top. And we're just using them as joining rings basically. So we're joining these two rings together and we're joining these two rings here together. So we just take up one of our small rings and we go through this large ring here. Now you want to try and make sure to keep your small rings in place. At this stage, these small rings here can move out of place and we want to try to avoid that as much as we can. You can generally wriggle them back in, but it's a lot harder to do it that way. So if you can keep them in place from the beginning, it'll be easier for you and you won't have to go back and undo things. So you really do need to keep an eye on that. So as I said, we're going to join these two large rings together and we're just going to simply do that by going through one and then the other. Okay, close that up. So this is what our work looks like. You can see that it's sitting snug in the back. If it was sitting on top of that back ring there, we would need to do that whole maneuver to pop it down in, but it's all looking good. So I'm going to now place one on the other side to join these two rings together. Okay. And there we go. All right, so just making sure that these rings are all placed properly. As you can see, this one here is slicked up on the top. Okay, we want our most placed ring to be on top, so we're just going to wriggle that around. This one here is slipped underneath. It really is a bit of a problem when you're first starting, so you really do need to keep an eye on that and make sure you've got them in position before you lock them in place with your next large rings. Okay, so as you can see, they're quite willing to wiggle out of position. At this stage, they're quite easily to put back into position, but you want to make sure you've got them in the right position before you start locking things down. Okay, so we've just placed a small row, so now we want to place a large ring row. And remember, to do that, we're not going through the rings that we just placed, but we're going through the row prior to that, which is this row of 3 here. So to do that, we just go, as I said, making sure you've got them in the right position, and we just go through and pick up both of those small rings there, okay, and circling the rings that we just placed, the small rings we just placed. We're going to close that one up, and then we want to do the same here on the other side. So again, making sure we've got all those rings in position. Now's the time to make sure that they're right, and once we're happy that they're all in position, we're then going to lock them into place with our large ring. So again, we go through the center one and then through this end one, okay? And then close it up. And your work should look like this, okay? So we've just placed our large ring there and there, and we want to place now 2 more large rings. We want one to come off this small ring here and one to come off this small ring here, okay? So we just go simply through there. There's nothing special or fancy about that one. And we do the same on the other side. Just go straight off that end large ring, small ring, sorry. Okay, so this is effectively the middle of our diamond. So we're halfway there, guys. So that was really quick. That's the middle of our diamond, and that's as wide as we're going to go with the large rings. And we're now going to start tapering it back down to the point. So we've just placed our large rings. We're now going to place a row of small rings. And remember, the small rings join the large rings together. So we're going to be placing one here, and one here. Now, personally, I like to start with the center first and then place the outside rings. So I'm just going to pop this one into the center here. Okay, so I've just picked up the 2 large rings in the middle, and I've closed that up. And then I'm going to join these rings over here. Just go straight through those 2 rings, join them up. And then over here. Okay, so there we go. This is what our work currently looks like. Okay, so we've just placed our small rings. We now want to place a row of large rings. Again, we're not going through our most recent row that we just placed, but this row here before. We'll want 1 ring that goes through these, and then we're going to put 1 ring off either side. So again, like I said, I'm going to go through the middle. I like putting that middle ring in place first. You may find it varies for you, but that's just the way I like to do it. So I've got my middle ring placed. I now need to place another one off here so that it encircles this ring here. Okay, so we just go straight through there. All right, and one off this ring here. Just like that. you go. That's our large rings placed. Okay, so again, we've placed the large rings. We now want to place the small rings, and we put one in here to join these two large rings together, and one in here to join these two large rings together. Okay, so just go in there and pick up the next one. All right, and one on the other side. Okay, remember all the time to be vigilant about whether or not your rings are in position. They are very easy to slip out of position until you start locking them in place, so you need to keep an eye on that, otherwise you'll be going back and pulling your work apart. All right, so we've placed our two small rings, so we need to now place a row of large rings. And again, we're working into this row here of small rings. So we need to place two large rings this time. We're going to go into here and into there so that we encircle this ring here that we've just added. And then we're going to place one more over here in these two small rings so that we encircle this one over here that we just added. Okay, so just straight into there. There we go. All right, so we're nearly done. So we just want to join our two most recent large rings. So we only need one ring to do that because we're nearly at the end. So we just go in and join those two rings together. And then we just need to place now our final orbiting ring. And we just go through those two previous large rings so that it goes orbits around the outside of that last small ring we placed. Okay. And there you go. You've finished one dragon scale diamond. Okay, so you'll need to make up several of these units, and that will depend, of course, on the size of the bracelet that you finally need. But to make up a bracelet to about the 8cm length, you're going to need to make 6 of these units in total. And then, of course, if you're going to make the earrings, you'll need another 2. So you go ahead and make up the rest of your diamonds, and then I'll show you how I go about joining them together. Okay, so you've got a couple of units now that you've made, or the 6 that you need for your bracelet, and we're going to now just join these. Now the way I've chosen to do this is I go to what is the middle ring, so the middle row I should say, which is the longest row. Okay, these ones here that are poking out on the edge, and I open one of those rings up, and then I pick up my next diamond. Now making sure that I've got these rings or these pieces orientated the same way. I mean, you could orientate them in different directions if that's what you like, but I'm just keeping these in the same way. I'm going to go through those rings over here, the small rings over here. So I'm going to follow the same path that middle ring there, which is the same one that I've opened over here, follows. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to scoop up those 2 small rings in there, and I'm going to close that up. Okay, so I've joined them together like that. Now you could go ahead and remove this additional ring if you don't want it in there. I've chosen to keep it in there to double up the strength of the join. So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to open that ring up a little bit, and I'm going to feed it through the small rings on the other unit. Okay, and then close that up. And there you go. You've got your 2 diamonds joined together. So you just go ahead and continue joining all your pieces together like that. just opening up that middle, one of the end rings on the middle row, going to your next piece, going through those same path that the end ring in your next unit follows. Okay, whoops, try not to Mobius it like I just did. So straight through those rings. Alright, close that up. And then, like I said, I like to double this up. Oh, now you can see here that I've actually twisted the alignment of the pieces. So you could do that. As I said, you can swap this up and make the pieces align differently or make them align the same way. That's totally your call. So once you've got them all joined together, okay, so as you can see, I've got two going one way there and the rest going a different way, but I'll just leave that for now. And then just to finish it off, I just put a clasp here on the large ring on the middle row. So just take up one of your smaller clasp attachment rings, feed it through that middle ring, pop your clasp on, and then close it up. And then on the other end, just pop on another small ring for you to close your clasp onto. And there you go, guys. There's your finished Tilted Dragons bracelet. And if you want to make up earrings, again, you just attach the ear wire to that middle row. With this particular ear wire, it originally, the loop didn't face flat towards me. As you can see it there, I had to actually modify that, and I'll show you how I did that just a second. Okay, so this is what my ear wire looked like originally, and as you can see, that wouldn't have worked. I could have just put it straight onto the large ring. So if you want to do that, by all means, you can open up that large ring and pop your ear wire on, or you can modify so that this doesn't show its edge, but it shows its flat face to you. And do that, I just simply grabbed hold of it with the pliers and gave it a bit of a twist so that it faced that way. And then you can use the small rings to attach to your diamond. So there you go, you've got a couple of ways of attaching your ear wire to your diamond. But there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Okay guys, well that's it. That's the tutorial for today. I hope you enjoyed it and it was helpful to you. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up here at YouTube. Share the video. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comments section below. We love hearing from you guys. While you're here, don't forget to check out some of our other videos that we've got. At the time of recording, there's 160, 170 odd videos here on our YouTube channel, so you're sure to find something that you're after. And last but not least, while you're here, don't forget to check out our shop link up here in the corner, where we sell all the bits and bobs and thingamajigs that you could ever need for mail and making mail jewelry. Alright guys, thanks again for popping along, and I hope to see you again sometime in the very near future. Bye!